Hi guys, welcome to the video for June monthly sales of photos and video sold on the stock agencies. And what have I been up to in June? Well, I finally got around to uploading a lot more videos and photos this month, and that includes a heap of photos that I took in Tassie when I was there. And that ranges from photos of my mum's hands doing something with her medication on a counter in the kitchen, to photos of classic Australian cars like the Holden Kingswood, and what else? Oh, there was also a huge Airstream caravan that I took photos of. I also while we were on Bruny Island, I noticed in the kitchen there was a snake bite first aid kit. So I just put that snake bite kit in the yard of the house we were renting on the island and took some portrait and landscape photos of that snake bite kit. It's newsworthy, it kind of represents Australia in some ways, but it can also be used maybe in North America and parts of Asia as something that can be used against snakebite. I took also a long lens photo of a cruise ship coming up the river in Hobart, and I uploaded some video. I was on the island south of The Hague, and I was driving past a farm, and I noticed that the farmer was loading tons and tons of these big potatoes onto conveyor belts in his yard, and those potatoes were being fed into these big trucks that were taking the potatoes to market. So I went to the farmer and I said, "Do you mind if I take some videos and photos of the potatoes?" And I took videos of a number of angles of the potatoes rolling off these conveyor belts and then being fed up them from different high and low angles. So I uploaded a number of those videos and photos, and luckily all of them were accepted. What else have I been doing? I went down to the beach last week, and I was walking past a fence, and on this fence are a number of very large photos on posters that are about 2.5 meters wide and about 1.5 meters high. And I noticed a photo of mine of these 3 umbrellas on the beach of Kite Down, and around those umbrellas are dozens and dozens of people. I can't remember if I took that photo with my iPhone or my 70D with its 20 megapixel crop sensor, but they've blown the photo up like 2.5 meters wide, and it looks pretty crisp on the poster. So if it was the iPhone photo, I'm mightily impressed with the resolution. I have a feeling it was the 70D though. I'll tell you about that photo sale on Shutterstock when we get to the Shutterstock earnings for June. Now, speaking of Shutterstock, let's get into the monthly sales for each stock agency for June. And that beach poster sold on Shutterstock as a single, and I only made $1.92 out of it. It's also an editorial pick. Other highlights for Shutterstock are 4 sales of orange tulips up close from a low angle with, I think, a blue sky background, and I sold 4 of those photos for $8, and they're commercial photos. Another highlight was an editorial photo that I took while on the island south of The Hague of the harbour, and a number of nice boats in that harbour, and that photo sold for $1.32 as an editorial. There was another editorial on the way to that island that I took, and there's a drawbridge as you go over the estuary, and the drawbridge was raising up to let some boats go through, and there were some motorcyclists in front of our car, and that photo sold as an editorial for $2.71. A commercial photo that I was really pleased to sell on Shutterstock was that of a wallaby. He was feeding in a meadow of wild flowers on Bruny Island, and I think I took this photo a couple of years ago while I was on the island, and that commercial photo sold for $5.50, which was a nice surprise. Okay, now onto the lowlights for Shutterstock, and I only sold one video on that agency for June, and it was a video of a wild toad walking along a beach path between the dunes, and it was a massive toad. So I got my iPhone on 4K 60 frames per second, and I got as low as I could, and I just waited for the toad to walk past me as I filmed it. I was really happy with that film, and also the fact that I timed it while there was a toad walking naturally along this path, which is a pretty rare event in broad daylight. But that video only sold for $1 on Shutterstock. In total for June for Shutterstock, I earned $35.70. Okay, now on to the small fish agencies, which you will see up here. And in total I made $5.35 for the small fish agencies. That includes one highlight of a commercial photo of daffodils with a blue sky background, same concept as those orange tulips, and that sold on Deposit Photos as a commercial image for $3. Okay, now on to Pond 5, which Shutterstock own, I'll remind you. And I sold one video. It was of the poor old gannet that was trapped in plastic on the beach, which I videoed a few years ago with my old iPhone 4. And that commercial video sold for $5.60. Now, there was some news this week that Shutterstock are going to potentially close down Big Stock. Jason Yoda made a video about it on his channel, and he goes into great detail about how Shutterstock have sent a message to contributors of Big Stock saying they're no longer accepting submissions of photos or videos or stock assets, but they will pay out contributors after they've reached the $30 threshold requirement. So it just goes to show that Shutterstock is pretty much buying up the competition and eliminating them. So assets that are sold on Big Stock can be sold cheaper on Shutterstock, and this can be really emphasized with Pond 5, because since Shutterstock have bought out Pond 5, I've noticed a drastic decline in my sales on that agency, and I am afraid that after another few months or a year or so, we'll get that familiar upbeat letter from Shutterstock saying, oh, you can't submit to Pond 5 anymore, you have to submit to Shutterstock. And instead of, for example, those $20 video sales that I got last month, we'll be getting these shitty $1 sales that we get on Shutterstock for our hard-earned videos. So that's quite troubling to see that the big fish are swallowing up the little fish in this pool, and those little fish are offering us more value for our hard work and assets that we're uploading to those agencies. Okay, on to a more lighter subject now, and that's Getty iStock, which I think is my highest earning month for Getty iStock in over a year or two. So things are looking up for the summer in the Northern Hemisphere with my stock agency sales. There were a couple of highlights, although I did not sell any videos on iStock either, but I did sell a couple of photos which earned more than the normal amount on iStock Getty. The first is an editorial photo of kayakers on a canal in The Hague, paddling from the skyline of the city on a beautiful sunny day. And that editorial photo sold for $4.20. A commercial photo which I thought would never sell, because I've hardly sold any photos of my trip that I took to Corfu a few years ago. But I did go to the south of Corfu to an island, to a lake called Lake Corazon, and I'd read that this lake was a beautiful nature area where you see tons of birds and other wildlife. And to be quite honest, I was very disappointed when I got there. There were flamingos on the lake, but for the biodiversity around the lake, there was hardly any other life. And in the distance, you always heard these gunshots going off of the locals shooting wildlife. Hopefully rabbits, not for the rabbits' sake of course, but not any rare indigenous species. But I sold a commercial photo of that lake for $16.44 on iStock Getty, which was, I think, my highest sale on that agency for many, many months. In total, I made $38.11 from iStock Getty. Okay, now to Alamy, which is my second top earning website or agency for the month of June. And I made 3 photo sales for Alamy. The first one was of a common carp that I photographed from above as people were throwing bits of bread to them, and his mouth was just opening as I took the photo. And that was sold to China as a commercial photo, I think royalty free, for 50 cents. The second one was a photo of the poor old gannet trapped in plastic on the beach, and that sold for $13.36. And the last one was of this very not particularly exciting photo, very simple photo of a bicycle with a flat tire. And unbelievably, that simple photo of a flat tire sold for $50. Of course, Alamy will take their commission out of that total of $63.86. If you guys are interested to know what subjects and photos I upload to Alamy, then I'd be happy to make a video about that. I've noticed in the comments that a lot of people were saying they never sell anything on Alamy at all, so it might be interesting for you guys to see what genres and things I target and that sell the most for me on Alamy. I know with my photojournalistic background, I do look at the news, and if I see something that reflects something that would be interesting for a news broadcaster or a publication to use, then I'll always upload that to Alamy. If you're interested to know more about me and Alamy, then let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make a video about it. Okay, now on to my most successful agency for June, and that was AdobeStock. I had a number of highlights for AdobeStock. I think I even sold a video, which is very encouraging. And Adobe is more and more showing me its strengths in comparison and contrast to Shutterstock showing me its weaknesses as a supporter of asset contributors in the stock sector. So the prices that I'm getting for Adobe now are really a lot higher than anything you'll get with Shutterstock. And I think with Shutterstock buying out Pond 5, there is going to be a crunch time with videos, so I'm really concentrating now on uploading more videos to AdobeStock, because I have a feeling Pond 5 is just going to drop off the map, and we're going to have to rely on these really shitty commission rates for our videos on Shutterstock. But more positive now with AdobeStock. A couple of the highlights were one of a food photo that I made years and years ago. I'm excited about this because I actually went out of my way to do a photo shoot involving food, and it's a teaspoon with chocolate sprinkles or chocolate hail, and it's kind of kind of studio photo, I guess. It only sold for 99 cents, but I was just happy to sell that style of photo. Another one was of a Volvo sports car that was built in the late 1960s, early 70s, I think, and it was the Volvo P1800 Coupe. And I took that photo and uploaded it a couple of weeks ago, and it's already sold on AdobeStock as an editorial photo for 99 cents. The spoon with the chocolate sprinkles was a commercial photo. And now to the single video that I sold, which is of the Atlantic salmon that I videoed in Tasmania, and that sold for $2.80, which is not that spectacular actually. What is more spectacular is a commercial photo that I took of a Tesla electric car charging, and I edited the photo to take out all the logos and trademarks on the photo so that it could be sold as a commercial photo, and that sold for $7.59. Another nice highlight was I sold a number of photos of VW combis that I go to every year to an outdoor exhibition for these vehicles and photograph them. And I sold 5 of those photos in June for a total of $5. I guess the biggest highlight for AdobeStock was the fact that they accepted me into their free collection, where you can volunteer a certain amount of your photos, or I'm not sure if it covers videos, but it's definitely photos. And they will select photos that they want to use in that free collection. And they chose 10 of my assets. And for those 10 photos, they gave me $50. So I guess that was the biggest highlight. I know short-term wise it's nice to get that bump, but I'll just have to see if that affects my overall sales in the coming year or so. In total for AdobeStock, I made $84.95, which is I think the highest amount I've ever made for that stock agency. Of course, it was bumped up by that free asset collection. Without that, I would have made $34, which is also, I think, my highest earning month with Adobe so far. So it's blown Shutterstock out of the water, which was relegated to 3rd place out of all the agencies for June, and AdobeStock was first. Now, how much in total did I make for June for my stock photos and videos? Well, if you like this video and it's helpful to you, please give it a like, and that will help my YouTube algorithm and motivate me to make more of these videos. Someone screaming. In total, I made $200 for the month of June with stock photos and stock videos. I uploaded half a dozen videos and a dozen photos in June, and that took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that hour and a half to 2 hours was just me having fun, basically. and I didn't really consider it work. Even doing the keywording I felt was enjoyable. So for that hour and a half, 2 hours work, and getting a $200 return for the month, that is pretty encouraging to me, and I think it is my highest earning month for over a year for the stock agencies. Anyway, that was my month. How was your month? I look forward to hearing about it in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!